Good morning, friends. Professor Dr. V.S. Murthy, Director, IT Hyderabad. Madam Dr. Ranjana, the Chief of DIS UA Hyderabad, Dr. Ramaguru, TIFAC, all my friends, directors, Anupam Shamaji from DSP and all other friends across my cluster and across DRDO and all the startups, all the faculties, and my dear students. At the outset, I would like to express my sincere gratitude and thanks to Director IIT, Ramaguruji, Ranjana ma'am, and all of you for giving me this opportunity that I can share a few thoughts here. Very happy to see Director Chess, the leisure man, Dr. Naik, partly DRDO and partly IIT Hyderabad. I think there are many prospective careers candidates I'm seeing here which are going to redefine the next India. In fact, my apology to you to pushing you out because I will try to save time. Biodata is history. The time has come here not to read history. Time has come here to change our geography and create history. That's the reason I think in every platform I take this liberty to push out biodata, because what I achieved in biodata is the credit of my teachers, not of me. So that's always I salute when I start. But the point here comes is, I was very thrilled yesterday evening when I met a lot of prominent professors, startups, during dinner time today morning, during breakfast. It's given me a lot of assurances that India as a country, not only marching ahead, India is a country with full of power, and India is a country which has made its intention very clear that we are going to be the global leaders. I tell you, in this month itself, this is my 7th or 8th address across the country, and it's all going around, whether it is missiles or space or electronics or the technology spearheading, the ecosystems development and whatnot. So all that shows that we all are very clear about our approach. I am very happy about TIFAC's initiatives and what we did in 2020 and what we are defining for 2035 and now what is going for 2047. So, like we say, the power could be there within any of it. So is with the missiles. But if the missile is not guided properly, we don't reach up to the CP. So power-wise, we don't earth in this country. But what's required probably is a focused approach. And what could be better than what Honorable Prime Minister has defined, TIFAC is doing, all the academicians together. And I was very happy with the Director IIT Hyderabad for all his initiatives as to conglomerate all the experts together, whether it is YWeb Summit, whether we talk about uniting all the startups, all industries together. I think I was thrilled to hear his address, and he says in a young IIT, they are in a very low voice he was saying there are 9 and I am one of them beyond 50. But who says so with so much of the power and energy within you that you are beyond 50? Point is not with the age as a figure, point is with what comes in the mind and the power. Because living a life is not with the age, living a life is with the spirit. I think as long as the spirit is high, India is going to be number one. Yes, I've been asked to touch upon few points. That's why I made a slide on these topics. I mean, I'll not talk much about very details. Sorry, I'm not able to see things. Okay. Yeah, my regards to all the online participants also. Sorry, I missed your names because I'm not able to see the screens. Thank you so much for joining, and I saw my loving ITR also joining. Love you ITR, all of you, if you are listening to me. And see, literally on this presentations, I'm broadly covering it is about what is the space warfare scenario. It's a brief introduction, and what is the space situational awareness, which Ranjana ma'am was pointing it out, that a lot of work we are doing on this. Because if you really are preparing for the space war, first is the awareness. If you don't assess the field, I always give the example of the cricket field. You know, every before the shot, the batsman looks at the field settings. So unless you know the field settings, you don't know where to hit the sixer. It's exactly so. So unless the warfare scenario goes with situational awareness precisely, we can't know where to hit. And yes, that field study is over, and then we come for our preparedness for the space warfare. So there are 4 major topics which are going on to be. I will not cover much because all the experts are here, probably they will speak. It's on the radar technology, the electronic warfare, the electro-optics, and also the lasers, which happens to be most important. Our space policy and future space technology I'll try to touch upon. Yeah, if you look at the threat scenario today, the land, sea, air, space, all along, you see all those articles are on. This is where we are crowded with, and this is how we have to have our defense preparedness to counter all of them in all forms and spheres. I was trying to say, give a thought about the war doctrine. Despite all the technologies we have, despite all the weapons we have, despite all the attacks we have, if you know, the actual war is fought between the oppositions, which commands the mind, not necessarily the machines. So war is fought against oppositions, intelligence, educations, culture, training, experience, doctrine, stamina, fortitude, fear, and hatred. Now this is the basic theme of a war. And if we talk about this war, and it's not the winning of the war which decides the result, it's the conduct of the war which decides the result. So it all depends on how powerful we are. I'll give you a very small example. The Germans, if you look at the World War II, Germans with a very few assets against the French as well as the British. But all that they could win the war is because of the lessons learned in World War I. The innovation in thinking that recite all that technology, they have forgotten about the incremental technology growth. All that they thought is we have to revamp, renovate, rethink, rediscover, reimagine, and re-establish what is a powerful Germany is all about. My whole idea of giving you this example is, friends, India as a country today, we have to rethink. We have to really reimagine, we have to re-step, recalibrate, and re-jump. That's the way probably we are going to be in the next generation world. So the space preparedness, the prime requirement is the innovative thinking, the strategy, and the informations. If you look at the applications, you are all very familiar with all the civilian uses, but coming to the military uses, whether the net-centric warfare, precision navigations, targeting, situational awareness, like I told you a few minutes back, beyond terrestrial capabilities, missile warning, synchronized combat operations, communications, and intelligence. What's the basic background? Mainly, the militarization of the space has increased. It is not today, it has been over the years. The globe across the terrestrial has gone beyond to the space. And today we have on the C5 ISR. It's in command, control, communication, computers, cyber, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. So more important is how to utilize the technology. You should. Over-occupancy of the orbits, especially the LEOs, you know, every single day there are multiple satellites are being launched across the world. And more importantly, what is the incremental requirements for the surveillance data, space-based weapons, both for military and surveillance applications, and what are the prime roles of the space-based assets. Friends, it's not just about tank anymore. The whole game of the fight has changed over the years. Military operations are shifting from space assets to the space enabled. So the entire future war is going to be controlled by the space systems. Now, space systems doesn't mean only deploying satellites, deploying hyperspectral payload, deploying synthetic aperture radar. I'm not talking about that. That's only one part of the story. What's more important is the entire data which you capture out of all these sensors around and how much you process the data. So the big data analytics, and the most important is how to imbibe intelligence out of it. I think one great man, General Gordon Sullivan, is the former Chief of Staff from Army US, has mentioned a statement. Information is the currency of victory in the battlefield. So as much you process the informations, get into the intelligence, and give the commands to our soldiers is what is going to make you the supreme. Now I was trying to think, these are the slides I was making yesterday in the flight. Principles of winning the space warfare. Essentially dominating and survivable pre-conflict satellite positioning, this is most important. Extensive satellite onboard maneuvering fuel, which Ma'am Ranjana was addressing about. This is the very, very latest technology which we have to think up, because like India, we have done our ASAT systems. These days, the ballistic missiles defense has gone very strong, and we are going to counter the satellites around. Somebody clears debris, somebody is neutralizing satellites. So we should have maneuvering satellites, and maneuvering satellites with thrusters, dynamic allocations, refueling. I mean, these are the technologies which you have to think for the next generations. And the predictive battlefield awareness. Yes, unusual orbits is a very, very important thing, because these are predictive orbits. Anybody is going to neutralize and nullify in a single minute. So you have to think of a highly dynamic satellites with unusual orbits. And very important is space debris, both clearing and creation. Clearing is a national asset. We all have to clear the space debris over the year. It is like Swachh Bharat, we can say about the Swachh Antariksh, because so much we are creating around across the world. A time has come that we have to clean it up. But at the same time, the counter warfare technology is creating more space debris. You talk about Hubble's telescopes, you talk about ISS, if you see one imaging, all across ISS there are clutter of debris. Now this is another way that the future warfare is going to define, and the most important is the data relay satellites. They are the threats, so they should be the prime targets for the warfare. Now if you look at the world as a glance, where is world today? Of course, I started with India Resats, but American Lacrosse, you must be knowing, in the Desert Storm operations, this has been the real satellite, spy satellite we call it. Up to 1.5 meter accuracy of the radar resolutions, it was able to spot the systems. Russian Condors, Japanese information gathering satellites, German SAR Loop, Chinese Yuanjing, There is a series of military radar satellites. Everybody has established its flag on the space. If you took out active Earth observation radar satellites, whether JASON satellite series of US France joint military, CloudSat, which US has got, METOP, Europeans, radar sets, and whatnot. I mean, these are all the crowded satellites across the space. Just to give you a glimpse of where we are today. Today, the cumulative number of objects launched into space, you see the US numbers, Russia, China, and there. So a lot of options we have got, and a lot more we need to do to really have our data onto the space. Just to give you two major countries I wanted to take it, just to give you a feeling of where the US is today. Ronald Reagan ballistic missile defense test sites, if you talk about, they have got the radars to conduct the deep space and near Earth satellites observations, almost 10,000 objects they are planning. High resolution near real-time images for the space objects. Space-based surveillance systems, this is quite familiar. I think when we are also planning that, space tracking and surveillance systems. Space-based infrared systems, SBIRS high. Space-based radars, radar altimeters is very interesting one, Cryosat and the SAR with intermetric techniques and wind scatterometers. That's for the depth measurement as well as for the wind measurements. The orbital deep space imager systems, and this is very interesting one, the Blue Force tracking. This is essentially US network of GPS to enable a network to its own friends to create two contrasting graphs on the battlefield as to where you are and where are your enemies. This is the kind of a system which they are coming it up to, and of course all this data is used for ISS and the space missions. Yeah, the second fellow is not far behind. If you look at the budget, about $13 billion is what China is spending for entire space operations. Of course, too low compared to $60 billion of US, but India I don't want to compare because we are just rising. You'll be knowing this, the Genetian CSST, Chinese Survey Space Telescope, we all talk about Hubble today, but China has come out with a real telescope today, which is coming with a 2.5 gigapixels camera. Almost they are covering 40% of the sky. And the field of view they have increased about 340 times. So that's the kind of a technology which Chinese have. Beidou is a very important navigation satellite, about 35 satellites giving a global, this is very important, global navigational autonomy. As a country, India, if you are looking forward to the future battle, we should equally have a complete global navigational autonomy with our own set of satellites, with one set of command systems. This is just a glimpse of China and Russia put together, the kind of telescopes we are having. Just now I explained you, the espionage and the cyber espionage techniques, they are quite counter space technologies they talk about. ISR satellite capabilities, they are very good at. Directed energy weapons across the world, we all are working. China and Russia are quite good at that. So on and so forth. Now, like I told you, yes, thank you so much, thank you. Like I told you, you have to assess the field before hitting the shot. That's what is the space situational awareness is all about. And I'd like to tell you the entire domain of space situational awareness clusters around the space traffic, the associated debris, the prediction of collisions. This is very important topic with so much of revolutions happening across space surveillance and satellite anomaly detection. These are the basic segments of a space situational awareness: ground to space, space to ground, and space to space. I think these are the three domains where India as a country has to work. We have done a lot of work here. Like I said, what we have done, we are not touching much here. What we are going to do is more important. So few technologies I would like to touch upon towards the end of my talk as to where you have to be. Just to get a feel of the pictures around how much of the clutter around the earth. Look at the space. Now these are the specific available technologies on which we all are working. Electro-optics, radar, and directed energy weapon systems. These are going to redefine the space and the space capabilities in future. Of course, this is a snapshot of across the world, the kind of technologies, the kind of radars the world has developed to the deep space network, to the track, assess, and create the space situational awareness. Coming to the ground to space detections, like I said, for the radar systems and the optical telescopes with the charge coupled devices with huge optics. I think I was talking to Digantar friends as to what we look forward to for the future. These are the domains in which we are working, and it's on a public domain. I can't speak much on these areas, but definitely these are going to be the game changer for the future. Space to ground detections, whether you talk about hyperspectral systems, whether you talk about synthetic aperture radar, you talk about ISAR, IMINT, image intelligence, these are all the topics in which we are working. And this is most important, space to face detection, and this is with space surveillance within the space domain. These are the three segments for the space situational awareness. Now, three technologies, if I just touch upon when you talk about radar, it is going to be surveillance, tracking, imaging, and inverse imaging. These are the four major systems. Just a glimpse of where the world is today. all of the measure radars, if you talk about whether space surveillance, whether you talk about BMD, whether you talk about BMD role, secondary role assessment, all these are spread with US, Russia, France and Israel. We have our plans. Like I said, I will not declare much here. We talk about MINISAR for the small satellites. Quite a bit of work is being done in India on this particular subject of the MINISAR for the launch. I don't know whether DLRL will touch upon few of it when they have their presentations ahead. I will not touch much on this. This is roughly the readiness of the MINISAR. This is just a glimpse of MINISAR. It's a very, very interesting technology. This is something called unfurlable technology, because in a radar in the space, every radar has a power with its antenna, and you can't carry such a big antenna to the space. So the whole system, it's typically like an umbrella or a mosquito net, if you think of. So the entire thing, we squeeze it inside. After the satellite gets released, that entire unfurling happens. So the antenna gets spread. So these are very deep technologies, which probably the country as India, we are working, and we have been quite successful in that. And these are the roadmap for the spaceborne radar, the SARs. So we are going formations of multiple payloads, whether SAR or electro-optic, hyperspectral, multispectrals, panchromatic. These are all the imaging systems which we are looking forward to. Yes, I'll touch upon this on electro-optics. See, there are 1,052 electro-optic satellites as on today in the space, and the spread is 13% increase every year. So you imagine the kind of roaring which is happening in the space. This is what is the multispectral imaging technology, which one of our labs is working. Hyperspectral, very strong. IRD is working on this, and the entire payload is getting ready for the launch, both in Veneer and Sphere, both the regions. That's what I was discussing with our startup friends. And it is not only the capture of the images or the capture of the multispectral. What is more important is for the processing of it. Data processing has to happen. And optomechanical, this is very challenging domain when it comes to the space. The linear variable filters, prism, gratings, these are the technology. IIT Delhi is doing quite a good number of work on this gratings. And this is what is the worldwide status of the optomechanicals. These are the detector technologies on the hyperspectrals with the line scanner versus the focal plane array. Both the technologies we are working. And this is how we do the characterization. This itself is a great teamwork of characterizations of the hyperspectral systems. And this is the roadmap for the EO technologies for the space situational awareness. Now coming to the DEW, this is again a very interesting technology. Dr. Naik is here. I'm sure he has got a talk after this, so he will touch more upon this. It is essentially to talk about both options, soft kill as well as the hard kill. Soft kill, where we do mostly the jamming of the satellites, jamming of its own EW systems and the spectrums. And the other one is under the hard kill, wherein we go for direct kill with the lasers, fine point with lasers. We were discussing on this. This is one area where country has advanced quite a good, and I'm hoping forward that some real powerful systems will come soon with togetherness with startups, industries, academicians and DRDO together. So essentially we blind it. See, when we talk about damaging the satellite through laser from the ground on an attack, all that we do has got the two parts. Either you blind the optics or you kill the solar panels. So blinding the optics is going to be a very critical phenomenon. With the kind of the power you generate, it has to travel for 1500 to 3000 kilometers with attenuations, with the pulse duty cycles, durations, power, energy levels ultimate. These are the technologies and the budgets which we are working towards doing it. These are all pulsed laser direct energy weapon systems. So there's quite a bit of a work is being done. It has got an entire technology by itself. You can imagine the precision of the fine spot which has to bear it to the satellite after traversing for 1500 kilometers. You imagine a single offset of few seconds not on time, arc second I'm talking about. If you reflect it over 1500 kilometers, you imagine the offset of distance it happens. The beam will fall far away from the satellites. And here we are looking forward to pinpointing to the exact lens or to the detectors. So that's the kind of accuracy. By that, what I'm trying to explain you, your entire system of control theory, the exact system of beam formation, beam combining, both spectral and coherent combination theories, these all and focusing, these all are the technologies by itself. And if India is going to be number one in all these things, a series of technologies which each one of you are going to mature. This is not the time that I can explain you the technology. It will take me for days. But what I'm trying to tell you is just have an appreciation of what all fine domain technologies all of you have to mature together to achieve at least one, to create a spot in the desired point on a space object, just to create a spot. Then comes its intensity, then comes its damage potential, then comes your achievement of success. Just talk about DAW. Like that is the spectrum of systems which all of us have to work. This just give a feel of how the DAW system is going to be. Yes, we are targeting, these are the dates, 1500 kilometers, 3000 kilometers, 5000 kilometers, so on and so forth. And of course, the final is going to be the space-borne DEW, wherein space to space you have to have interactions and nullification. That's going to be the final happiness or achievements in the sky, in the space for the next generation technology. Friends, just to summarize, what are the future preparedness we should have for the space war? This is exactly what are going to be addressed by TIFAC and all our team. India as a country, our academic institutions, our startup, our industries, DRDO, all of us put together. These are the basic blocks which I covered during the summary of the talk. Directed energy weapons are going to be the next generation's asymmetric warfare systems for the world. All of us have to be powerful enough, all of us has to be focused, all of us have to be working together. Whether you talk about, like I explained you, the beam direction, talk about accuracy of control, talk about the basic source development of it, whether it's a terawatt, whether it's a petawatt, then the timing management, all these things has to happen. It could be on laser, it could be on microwave, electromagnetic pulse, it could be on particle beams. These are the domain of directed energy weapon which we all of you have to work for. There is another story, it is called direct impact weapon. This is with kinetics. It is literally throwing the pebble and making the satellite to damage. It may look like a story to you, but it's possible. Today the technology has come up that in the satellites itself they carry the pebbles. Those pebbles are simple pebbles, but as the speed of the satellite, you imagine, let's say 7 km per second is a satellite across the orbit, and a pebble you throw at 3 km per second and you complete the velocity vector, the impact it is going to create, kinetic impact of half mv square, if you look at to that energy level, it is going to be much more devastating than your actual power of the nuclear weapons. So these are going to the future warfare is what I'm trying to talk to you about. Kinetic energy anti-satellite weapons, co-orbital anti-satellites. It's like typical road accidents we create. In the Hindi film what we are seeing, it will be something like that in the space. One satellite diverting itself deliberately to kill the others. Kinetic energy weapons for the forced applications and common aero vehicles. These are some of the direct impact weapon we are talking about. Now certain disruptive technologies. This is what is going to be the game changer. The other day I think at IIT Tirupati I was talking about that. The entire talk was on disruptive technology. Today I'm just going to touch upon what is required for the space-borne applications. If you talk about the defensive counter space, the protections through redundancy and the rapid reconstitutions, this is something what I was mentioning a few minutes back, the dynamic relocations of the satellites and reconfigurations of the satellite constellations for the future need. That's what is going to be the future India in the space. Miniaturizations is important. Smart propulsions, this is something which is whole country is looking up to. Smart propulsions, data analytics, 5G, quantum computing, space robotics, this is going to be the next generation warfare again. We are done too good on the ground-based robotics. How are we going for the space robotics? Space traffic management, smart satellites like CubeSats. I think today morning I was discussing with somebody that the world has come with the smart satellites. You can orient yourself, you can have your G maneuvers, you can have your divert thrusters firing that you change your locations, create your dynamics. And of course the space minings. So these are going to be some of the disruptive technologies which the India should look forward to work in future. Coming to the communications itself, I'm very happy to know there is an exclusive workshop on communications, but I thought any warfare without communication has no value, because networking is what at the end of the day we need up to. So the global communications for all platforms, like special communications, recently you might have heard this Starlink's Elon Musk in the SpaceX missions during Russia-Ukraine war, how beautifully and how wonderfully it has been worked with. Deep space network, space communication, regenerative satellite payload, that is going to be the next technology again. Navigation program, there is a scan program of NASA. Tracking and data relay satellites, which I told in the initial part of my talk, data relay satellites are the most dangerous ones and the most dependable one for a country. So when you are going for a space-based warfare, your prime target should be data relay satellites. Once you nullify them, you are out. That entire nation is out of the game. Laser communications and relay demonstrators. This is something which is very interesting again. Blue-green lasers for the underwater, so it's space laser communications. And most important is the need to realize the military payload with dynamic beamforming. See, today's our transponders and all, we call it as vanilla transponder. You know vanilla transponder, it's like vanilla ice cream, absolutely no taste, it's a flat, not like butterscotch. So today, the transponders are all vanilla type. We have to transform into now butterscotch transponders, you know. It has to have more power, more dynamic beamforming, more agility, so that nobody can predict, nobody can blind. It should have a dynamic sweeping of the frequency that they can't choke your frequency with the EW. Though my lab works on EW, this race continues between both the labs, how you can fool the EW systems. So that's going to be the next level of technology in communications. Multi-role low orbit Earth constellation, this is what is the look for the day. I think most of the startups are also coming up these days, both for electronic warfare as well as communication capability. And of course, launch and demand of LEO satellites, which Ma'am Ranjana was touching about. These are few of the space technologies again. Network-centric warfare, the global navigational autonomy, which I was mentioning few minutes back to what China was doing. We should have our own global navigational economy. Space orbiting robots, smart in-space propulsions, I said already, space-based infrared systems, this is going to strengthen. SIGINT and COMINT are going to the next generation's net-centric operations, and no Earth orbit satellites. To conclude, my last slide, India marches. You know, we had a success of Kautilya. India marches for the space-based EW program. Congrats to DSP, our labs, DLRL, for creating such wonderful systems, for giving us such good ideas. And I must tell you, it is so good that now our users are asking for launching more and more of them. MINISAR and ISAR, they are going to redefine the imaging in the space. Hyperspectral payload, it is roaring to fly. Now there is a ELINA Geosystems. I was just going through the literature today. It develops the first chip to facilitate navigations, positioning and timing for satellite signal receivers using NAVIC. This is claimed by literature that this processor is capable of Russian, European and US satellites and can even isolate Beidou of China. I mean, the time to prove it, but this is something which probably one of the industries have come up with. Digantara, you know, our main strength is our startups. I want to conclude with that note. Digantara, I met you yesterday and I was really thrilled to the great job which you are doing. And you have launched some 40 satellites to the debris. I love that. And more than that, the kind of optics you are handling, kind of mirrors, you are polishing, and you are working so good. And I'm very happy that now you and Chess, all of us will work together. Skyroot Aerospace, you all know about it. They have done with the Bikram S. That has been a good achievement. Dhruva Space, that friend is here. I think I have gone there. I have visited you. I liked your kind of space qualified solar array and those stuffs which you showed me. Bellatrix Aerospace, again, the space-based propulsion systems. I liked their activities. Galaxy Space, InSpace City, Kawa Space, New Space Research. I was trying to put those names, you know, I'm sorry that I put the dots, not to demean your work, but I couldn't do it, all the lists. But I can tell you, the greatest thing with India marches today is because our startups are our strengths. Friends, if I have to conclude this journey of 30 minutes with you, it is only to give you a focus that as a country, India, we have power, we have much more power now. All that it requires is a very simple thing. You all know it. Sun has got the light, but the moment we put the lens only, it creates a fire below. All that requires is that beam forming and focusing. As a country, India, all of us, whether it is startups, industries, all academic institutions, DRDO, ISRO, TIFAC, all of us put together. Let us redefine our roles. Let us rethink that what could be our approach and how can we work with all these technologies. Today as DRDO, we have created 15 Center of Excellence. I was so thrilled to see today that DRDO, DIA. So दिया you know, आप लोगों को समझ में आता है दिया होता क्या है? दिया से चिराग आता है. So यही है DRDO का दिया. हम चिराग देंगे पूरा दुनिया को. And all the DIA together is going to make the country glitter. I'm very happy about it. We have our technology roadmap. We are mapping every single technology to the Center of Excellence, that how we can realize. All these things may look very big to you. All the disruptive technology which I touched upon may look impossible to you, because that is where you have to extract those possibles. You have to break down to simple technologies. Let us select few of them which are required as a country for us to march on. Let us distribute those challenges to DIAs, challenges to industries, academicians, IITs, even small engineering colleges, even private engineering colleges across the country. They have also got a lot of power. Let us distribute this charge across everywhere, harvest them, focus it, and together we should be able to reign the space. India as a country has all the powers, and if we could be the first country to reach the south pole of the moon as the soft landing, I think that's only one of the success stories. We are the country who could make ASAT, the anti-satellite weapons, on the first attempt to destroy our own satellites. That is India. That is the power of India together. So I think this is the great team here sitting together. This full day, you will be able to do justice to these topics, break down to the technologies, come out with a roadmap, and let's have a review. Like you had a 2020, we had a missions long time back. A time has come with that 2020, what we set forth and how much we have achieved, then whether our approach was correct, and that is where we have to improve something more. And what was the story India 10 years back? It's a different India today. It's India full of power today. So much of startup I have never seen a decade back. Today all startups have come up with roaring that they all want to do great technologies. Let's harvest all of them put together and redefine our 2035, 2047, all the roadmap. And 100 years after our independence, we should show for what we got the independence. I think we as a country should be able to define that. We have been, me, Dr. Ranjana and Dr. Ramguru had a very great silk connection. It's a connection of Agni. I think yesterday night we are remembering 3 of us used to conduct so many missions together in the country, in the island. But I must tell you, after the first Agni, all that we faced is a strong import restrictions. All of you know, the US has brought down all its engineers. They left us the complex discrete technology systems to us to leave us how to handle it. We are the guys through the hardcore in our life have learned what is called ban and what is called isolations in a silo. And from there we have grown together to create technology to redefine a great India. We have been the country who was banned on import. Today we are the country who are banning import. That's the transformations we have done in last 40 years. May God bless you all. Thank you so much for this special hearing. And I wish you all the very best to this great country India with this space mission that 2047 we should reign the space. God bless you. Thank you all.